Okay, welcome students to the very first webinar for continuous improvement. So we welcome all management students to this session. This is section 1. So today is a resource support workshop. It's dedicated to taking you through the actual learning activities that are found in section 1, which is lead continuous improvement systems and processes. There are 10 questions in all today in this section, and they all relate to the learning material, which you can see above the actual learning activity in section 1. So by the end of this session, guys, you'll have all of the information that you need to successfully answer questions 1 through 10 in section 1, lead continuous improvement systems and processes. Next week, we'll be taking you through the remaining 2 sections. You'll see on my screen here, section 1. 2 and 3 will happen next week. So that's resource support workshop number 2. Part 2, I should say, which will take you through section 2 and 3. 7 questions in total for those 2 sections. And the following Tuesday, which will be the 21st of April, I think, we'll take you through the 3 assessment tasks that relate to this particular unit. So without further ado, I might actually open up that very first learning activity in section 1 for continuous improvement, and we'll just take you through the questions. Alyssa, anything that you'd like to add to this before we continue? Okay, so opening up the first activity.
Facilitate continuous improvement, so.
Actually, I should be doing it as a student. Preview quiz, that's it. Okay, so this is the set. Okay, so
Yes.
Alyssa,
Would you like me to read the question?
Yes, I would love you to do that.
Okay, all right. So that very first question basically says, you work for an organisation that does not actively encourage its employees to participate in decision-making processes and to assume responsibility and exercise initiative as appropriate. What would you say to convince the organisation's management that they should actively encourage employees to assume responsibility and initiative? Write a transcript of what you would say. Okay?
Yeah.
So I guess what we're looking for here with regards to this particular response is currently you're working in an organisation that doesn't actually encourage any kind of group decision-making processes, and there's no responsibility given to people, and people don't really exercise initiative. So I guess what Adam and I are looking for with regards to this is probably 3 clear concepts around, I guess, some of the benefits of having these types of things in play in an organisation. So what we're looking for is, just to really explain why, or the benefits of having those 3 different areas would have in an organisation. And obviously there are lots of different benefits to having things like group decision-making processes. There's lots of benefits to having your team members being accountable and having responsibility, and benefits to also exercising initiative. So I guess we're looking for those 3 things in the form of a transcript. So what you would say to management with regards to those. How would you convince them? And when you would convince them, you would probably looking to convince them through the use of I guess, benefits to those things or those ideas.
Yeah. So, I think that it says there, write a transcript of what you were going to say. Now, we talked about this a bit before, Alyssa. As much as possible, transcribe exactly the word for word how you would say it to somebody. That we'd love to see that. We're happy even if you do it in a dot point form, if you like, as long as sort of those, that your message is clear, so to speak. Is that it? Should we be offering it in this way to students, Alyssa? Are you happy for them to?
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I would be happy. Just as long as, I guess, the points are there that clearly highlight those benefits as to why those different things are really important to an organisation's management, or to an organisation essentially. So I'm quite flexible with that. If you want to write a transcript of exactly what you would say, you can also do that. I am looking for just, obviously for you and as Adam, is to really highlight those benefits or the things that you can gain benefit from when you're looking at those different types of tools?
So for my first point here, I've written motivation. So this is not going to be acceptable as an answer as just a point one word. So we're happy to be a little bit flexible with the transcript, but you need to, for this one, you need to actually write it out. So you need to just lay it out for me. So, so the sentence you could write here is one of the benefits that encouraging participation, and then from there, I can't spell. So one of the benefits encouraging participation might provide our business is, and why. And if you just sort of stick to those really basic sentences, I'm absolutely happy. Now the learning materials talk quite a lot about this, so we'll actually probably just move on to the second question. So yeah, 3 clear benefits to that participation can bring an organisation. That's question 1. Question 2 is quite similar. There's a slight change, but similar. So the question is, do you consider group decision making to be a valuable tool that will aid in encouraging employees to participate in decision making processes and to assume responsibility and exercise initiative? Please explain.
Yep. Yep.
Alyssa, did you want? Apologies for that.
Yeah.
Quote.
So this is really an extension almost of I guess what we were discussing in that very first question, because the very first question does ask you to kind of convince your organisation that something like a participative decision-making process is really quite a valuable tool. And I guess, in part, do you consider group decision-making to be a valuable tool that would aid in encouraging employees to participate in decision-making processes? Yes, it definitely is a valuable tool, but I guess what we want to see here is we want to see, again, probably 3 clear points, Adam, if you're happy with 3 points, that I guess kind of explain or justify why this group decision-making process is actually a valuable tool that will lead to allowing people to assume responsibility and exercise initiative.
I think the key difference for guys to understand is the first one is talking about, what are the benefits to encouraging participation in decision. So just talk about what the benefits for maybe for the individual or the business, but encouraging participation as a general. This question is talking about group decision making versus individual decision making. So the first one is, what are the benefits of encouraging participation in the process? Second one is, why group decision? What's the benefit of multiple people, a group of people, making the decision? So they are close, but they are slightly different. So I want to see a reference to the benefits of a group in the second question. I'm happy just that you leave it to the benefits of just participation in general for the first one. But yeah, three clear points I think will do it. So, three reasons why a group decision is a really important tool, and why you would use it, and why it's potentially better.
Yep.
Sounds good. Some of the question, some of the answer is in the question in and of itself. So, why is it a valuable tool that will encourage them to participate in the process and to assume responsibility and exercise initiative? So there you go. Let's move on to the next question. Question 3. Unless you'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? Did you want to read this one out?
No, I'd love to read this one out. Okay, so your organisation has changed the way it accepts payments from customers or clients to make the process easier for the clients and customers.
Yeah.
What would you do to ensure that the organisation's continuous improvement processes are communicated to all stakeholders? Okay.
So, did you want me to?
So a bit of a do you want to? It's a bit of a confusing question. So, Adam, do you want to elaborate on, I guess, the meaning behind this question?
Yeah. So, firstly, the organisation's continuous improvement processes. What we're actually referring to there is the process that we actually listed in the previous sentence. So we've actually given you a scenario. Your company has changed the way that it accepts payments from from its customers. So we have a business, and we are changing the way that we are expecting our customers, who are our lifeblood, we're changing the way that we expect them to behave when they're interacting with us. So this question, when it says, what do you do to ensure the organization's continuous improvement process? What we're asking is, what would you do to ensure this change that we've just given you, the process change of accepting payments from our customers? What are we going to do to ensure that this change has been communicated to stakeholders? What I'm kind of looking for here is more, what are the sort of things that need to be considered when communicating this specific change? So you've got to change your customers, your lifeblood. They are the ones that keep this business afloat. We're wanting them to behave differently. Now, we may be making this change, and this is part of what you might want to be considering when you're formulating your answer as far as how you might communicate with them. But we want to look. We're doing this for the benefit of, we're making this process change to save time, to make things easier, to make things happier, to whatever these reasons are. We may want to explain those to our customers, the people that we're doing it. So that sort of might make part of your sort of thought process here. Really, what we're asking is, what sort of things are you going to want to consider when you communicate this change?
Mm.
So yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of
Yeah.
things that you may want to consider. I don't really want to go through all of them with you now, because then we're effectively giving you guys the answer. But again, the materials talk about this a little bit as well. We've talked about communication a lot through the course so far, so it's a common thread. But really, I want you to just to sort of think about this particular scenario, and just consider a couple of things. How many things should we? Uh, are we looking for a list of things here? What's the way that you'd like this answered?
Um, I guess maybe just I guess I mean there's one big thing that I would be looking for based on what we've been talking about. But I would probably be inclined to maybe look at maybe having a couple of different, maybe just two different uh, concepts around, I guess, how you're communicating and that type of thing. So I would probably be looking at 2 points here for this one, Adam.
So 2 points here.
Yeah.
Let me just write that on the screen. Okay, so you're one of my customers, Alyssa. I've made a change where I don't want you to use this particular bank account. I want you to create your own online payment processing account, whatever, and that means anytime you need to pay us, you can log on to your own thing in your own time at 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to wait for us to be here to do it, and you can process your payments whenever you want. Now, this is going to obviously save you a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of hassle. For us, it's great because we've got increased reporting. It's going to save us time. It's going to save us errors, increased satisfaction, all of these wonderful things. What do I need to think about when I'm going to tell you about this? What do I need to think about? What do I need to consider when communicating this change to you? So you're one of my customers. I want to tell you about this change.
Yep.
What things do I need
Yep.
to think about and consider when I'm talking to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to consider what type of customer I am. I think you need to kind of consider, I guess, where I might fit into the demographic of your customer basis, really. Um, I guess if you're changing something, how easy do you make the process for me? How easy is the process? I mean, is it going to be something that's going to work for me? Is it going to improve the service that you offer me? Or is it going to overcomplicate things for me even more?
Yeah, so we really want guys, and this, it's so hard to sort of say it because I don't want to sort of say it. So, but yeah, you're on the you're exactly where we want people to be thinking. Um, and consider also the way that you're going to deliver that communication. The learning materials talk about different communication methods. Now, we've talked about different communication methods and so on and so forth. Obviously, that's something that you're going to consider for a formal change. Do you send an email? Do you send a
Yeah.
letter? Do you send a letter with an email? Do you have a phone call? Do you have a phone call with a letter attached to, I mean, tell me how you're going to, that's a consideration in and of itself, which could be potentially one of your points here.
Yep.
Should we just move on to the next one?
Let's have a look at question 4, the lovely question 4.
See, that's good. So do you want to read this one out?
Sure. Okay, so this question is actually asking you to define sustainability and outline why organisations should develop workplace sustainability policies. Okay, so there's 2 elements to this question. We're looking at the actual definition of what sustainability is, okay, and the second part of that question is getting you to outline why it's important for workplaces to have policies around sustainability. So I guess based on the concept of sustainability in business now, it has a couple of different meanings around environmental sustainability, organisational sustainability. So your definition of sustainability can kind of vary. The resource material does give you a strong definition of sustainability.
It does.
So have a look through that. Yeah, have a look through that, and that is a big key terminology used in organisations now. That sustainability, and I guess as you've written here, Adam, as well, why is it important to have policies around sustainable work practices? And I think you've kind of mentioned there that we're looking for probably about 3 different points.
Yep.
And I think 3 different will definitely showcase to you the importance of having these types of processes. And considering sustainability in terms of your strategy and your workplace objectives and all those types of things, and retention and productivity and all those things. So I guess, yeah, so first part, define what sustainability is, and then second part is looking at probably 3 points here on why organisations should have sustainable work policies.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, for some people find it hard to sort of put sustainability into like a real world situation where they can understand why a business might think about it, or think about the impact that dumping your waste. Now let's think about a company that might have a lot of waste. So it might be a construction firm that build these grand buildings in the city, whatever it might be. They need to have a bit of a plan of how they throw out their rubbish, their waste. They've got a lot of waste from the site. They've got a lot of waste from the old building materials that have been collapsed. There's just a lot of waste that happens on construction sites. Why is it important for them to consider where they throw their rubbish away? Imagine what that would do to a business that just dumps its rubbish anywhere it likes. What happens? I mean, imagine, one of the biggest construction firms in the city, and they pick up their rubbish and they drive it down to the local beach, and they just back up the truck onto the local beach and just dump all their rubbish there. What do you think people would think about that? And would that affect their business? So think about it from that. You can think about it from that perspective as well. So you can think about obviously the direct effect that sustainability might have on the environment, what that might actually mean for us as humans, animals, the actual environment itself. But you can also reflect on, last week we talked in webinars about things like integrity, credibility, and business ethics. And so this relates to those. And so, why be ethical? That can help sort of, in formulating an answer here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's sort of hard to sort of talk too much without providing the direct answers here, at least what I'm finding. But look at page 23 on your learning materials. There's a lot of stuff on page 23 there, guys. So get in there, have a look at the materials. You'll be fine with that one. Question 5. Would you like?
Yeah. So it says research environmental management issues for the workplace and state why these issues should be taken into consideration when planning and managing an organisation's operations. So I guess essentially, kind of bordering on or stemming from question 4, what we want you to do is just have a bit of a look around or research some environmental management issues for the workplace, and maybe just give us a few insights as to why it's important that these issues are actually taken into consideration within an organisation itself. And I guess, there's a few, we would probably be looking at probably about three different, I think, three different points here around why these types of issues do need to be considered when you are planning. There are certain, obviously, rules and regulations that might, environmental management brings about. And I guess, Adam, as you talked as well, there are certain things that sustainable work practices can impact have on in terms of the impact it has on a business too. So I guess, yeah, what we're looking for would be basically 3 points as to why we need to take into consideration current environmental issues in the workplace and how they impact the planning and managing of organisations' operations. And I think we were talking before about when we were doing project planning, Adam,
Yeah,
um, and we were talking about the importance of environmental sustainability, or referring to, environmental protection if you are managing large projects when it comes to this kind of concept.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, um, it's quite a generic question here. It's not really overtly specific. You're more or less just happy with three, 3 points
Yeah,
that are well, I guess, explained and defined as to, yeah, I guess the importance of, you know, why environmental management issues need to be taken into consideration.
yeah, yeah. Do you think three's good? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Now, did you want the guys to provide three sustainability or three actual ways or three reasons?
Yeah, no, I think the question's saying, um, yeah, so I guess that it's the reason why that the issue needs to be taken into consideration. So,
Yeah,
I guess, yeah, I think that's what we're probably looking for, more so than the actual management issues. And I think we're looking for why we have to take these issues into consideration. I mean, how can these environmental issues affect an actual business, especially around planning and managing organisations' operations? I mean, you know, there could be massive repercussions if you don't abide or consider certain management issues. There's lots of, I guess, you know, legislative reasons around why you need to kind of take these into consideration as well.
yeah,
And I guess without kind of going into too much depth, because we want you guys to kind of answer the questions, I mean, these are some of the things that we have really considered and discussed, over the last couple of weeks, around the importance of sustainability and considering these types of issues.
yeah. You know what? It's a pretty open question for guys to get a bit creative with anyway, so I'm happy. Actually, probably the last two questions are a little bit similar. That's all right. If you feel you've doubled up a little bit, that's okay. Um, yep. Question six.
Yeah. All right, let's have a look at question 6. Your organisation has asked you to develop effective mentoring and coaching processes to ensure that individuals and teams are able to implement and support the organisation's continuous improvement processes. What would you do to achieve this, and explain how you think coaching or mentoring can contribute to encouraging employees to participate in continuous improvement
Okay,
processes?
so remember that first example that we talked about, that there was a process change where we're asking our customers to do something different. So, go online to pay their bills rather than calling us up, and that's a process change. Uh, what we're really asking you guys here in this question is, you know, how does effective mentoring and coaching help individuals and teams when things are changing, when processes change? And because that's what continuous improvement is about, really. It's about the understanding that things are you need to be continually looked at, continually monitored, continually evaluated, continually getting people around to discuss how can we do this a bit better or a bit differently. So the whole idea of continuous improvement is that there's a constant flow of change that's always involved in the business, which is good because change is healthy. It means that you're improving and not staying sort of you're not stagnating, and you're involving people obviously through that process. So what we're asking you here is explain, well, the second part of the question. Explain how you think coaching and mentoring can contribute to encouraging employees to participate in continuous improvement processes. So really what we're asking is, how is coaching and mentoring going to assist you in getting your staff members to get involved in the new changes that are happening? So really, to break it down even further, what we're wanting you to list off here is really some benefits that mentoring and coaching can provide. The learning material does refer to a slight difference between mentoring and coaching. So if you can highlight that, that would be great. But basically, just talk about coaching, talk about mentoring, talk about how that helps to engage people when there's a process change, when there's a procedural change, a key change to the way that something happens in a business. Why would coaching and mentoring, how can that assist? Alyssa, how do you feel I've answered this question?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, as you've mentioned, yeah, I think as long as you, I guess, consider, like you've said, your coaching and your mentoring, if you can introduce those, I guess, those differences in there, and I guess what you're doing to be able to help, I guess, or use these techniques in the process of continuous improvement, I guess that's exactly where we would, yeah, I mean, you've explained it quite well, and it is a little bit of a tricky kind of question to get your head around, but I guess, yeah, just look, using coaching, mentoring, and just how you can really use those techniques to be able to get people to be to be a part of that continuous improvement process.
Can't spell, but you see the sentence I'm creating here. What I want you to do is do something similar for both coaching and mentoring. It's probably by, yeah. So, something like that. If you finish that sentence, I think you're on the right headspace for this, what we're asking of this question. Do you think that's fair? Alyssa?
Yeah, I definitely think, yes, yeah, can you hear me? Sorry. I definitely, sorry, there's a plane going over.
It's okay.
I definitely think that if you follow that, I think you'll be able to definitely, that's a good lead into, I guess, the response, just to make it nice and easy for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, the easier you make it for yourself, the better off.
The purpose of this question, is to highlight, I guess, how coaching and mentoring can effectively help you to encourage and engage people, especially when there's a change. So, talk to us about the benefits of coaching and mentoring and how that might likely engage and encourage participation when there's a changeover of, a behavioural change. Yeah, let's move on to the next question.
Let's have a look at the question.
Now, the next four sort of take a bit of a theme. I'll read the question. I might get you to lead on this one if that's all right, Alyssa.
Sure, sounds
Question
good.
7 is, an organisation uses a knowledge wall. The wall contains a whiteboard and employees use it to post notes on it, to post information for other employees to use. Question that we have for you guys, is this a knowledge management system? Is this a knowledge management system? Now, the materials do talk about knowledge management systems a fair bit. Oh, well, not a fair bit, a little bit, not a lot actually. Alyssa, do you have a good explanation for knowledge management systems, or how would you it's probably a good starting point, because actually the next 4 questions talk about knowledge management, so we could really, yeah.
All right, of course. Okay, so I guess when I look at the term knowledge management systems, what I'm thinking is I'm actually thinking of something that gathers data or gathers knowledge and uses that data and uses that knowledge to, I guess, analyse results that therefore produce continuous improvement opportunities. So my concept of knowledge management system might be slightly different, I guess, from the resource material and the way that they interpret or they explain knowledge management system. As Adam, you mentioned, the resource material does give you some information about knowledge management systems. So it kind of explores a couple of different concepts and a couple of different ideas. I guess. I guess from my perspective, I'm not I'm like I think it's on page number 36. Yes. So it does explain,
34 here, I think. Yeah.
and I think knowledge management systems are actually discussed on page 36 as
Oh, okay.
well, too. Yeah. So they go into a little bit more depth on 36 too. So
So the
I
sentence here that I'll
guess.
read out, it says organizations should value the insights and experiences gained through their business activities and capture them using a knowledge management system. So it's a system of capturing the insights, the experience, the knowledge that we know that we have here, but it's not tangible. You can't hold it, you can't touch it. So how do we get that from that place that's there to somewhere that's tangible? That's what we talk about when we talk about a knowledge management system. Now there's 8 different strategies that the actual that the learning materials talk about as systems for managing that knowledge. Um, so whether you're using, and one of the more common ways to do it is to use like a repository where you might have a common file and everybody can access that file and add certain information to it. That's usually for a very specific something. Now we talked about it in project planning, guys. We talked about in the subject project planning how there's a need to have an end of project review where you get all of the stakeholders together to talk about the lessons that they learned through the project, what they could have done a bit better, what they discovered through the project. Now that idea of getting together and sitting and talking to each other and then having somebody put that information down um, in writing is effectively what we're talking about here with knowledge management systems. It's the ability to manage all of that information that we have. And so now we kind of know why we need to. This first question is an interesting one because what it actually is giving you an example of a knowledge management system, and it's asking you if this actually is an example of a knowledge management system. Your answer for this question is simply yes or no. However, what I'm actually looking for, and I guess we can discuss our opinions straight after this, is just the explanation. So yeah, the answer is yes or no, but why? So if it's yes,
Mm.
then give me the why. If it's no, then why not? Um, the thing is, by technical definition, this whiteboard that employees can use to put information is a knowledge management system. It is a system of managing some particular knowledge. There's a lot of look. This is the issue with talking about this too deeply is that question 8 and question 9 ask you what the advantages and disadvantages of this particular system are. So we don't really want to sort of talk it through because then we're effectively giving you the answers to question 8 and 9. There are clear advantages and clear disadvantages. You know, it's I can't really say much more than that one.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
look, I think I'd be looking at for this, if you think it's a knowledge management system and you say yes, why do you think it's a knowledge management system? If you don't think it's a knowledge management system, then tell us why you don't think it's a knowledge management
perfect.
system. Okay? Don't just write yes or no in the answer. We want to see some kind of, I guess, thought process and some kind of understanding as to what your concept of knowledge management system is and whether or not you think a knowledge wall is.
So
Is a
remember,
knowledge
it's
management.
a
Yeah.
knowledge management system is a system of sharing insights, sharing experience, and sharing information with other members. So it's the system, it's the way that you can do all of that sharing of that information. So we're asking you if this whiteboard is a way of doing that. And we're going to get many great reasons for why it could be or may not be. So they're both valid. Um, yeah, yeah. So would you?
So obviously then question 8 and question 9 then obviously lead on from that. So I guess what we would be looking for is, you explaining to us, I guess, what your thought process is behind knowledge management system, and then question 8 asks you to list some of the disadvantages to this system. So then having the knowledge wall, what do you think is the disadvantages to having this process? And I guess question 9 is, what are the advantages of having a system like a knowledge
Now,
wall?
I personally think there are some great advantages with that knowledge wall system, but I also think that, there's some clear disadvantages to that system as well. And so we've purposely chosen a slightly interesting one to reflect on, the post-it note wall, because there are clear advantages and disadvantages that a system like that might have, and it's good for students to sort of recognize what those different benefits and what the advantages and disadvantages of each are, because when you're trying to determine your own knowledge management systems, it's important to know what some of the advantages and disadvantages of each when you are weighing those up. There's not much we can really talk about with 8 9, Alyssa, I don't think. The materials talk about this question. We've sort of shown you that anyway, page 34 through 36, I think. So have a little look through that. And then question 10, the last question in this set, says, consider an organisation that would benefit from capturing and accessing insights and experiences from business activities. So, effectively, consider a business that would benefit from having a knowledge management system in place. That's what we're saying here. So consider that. Discuss the current situation and how a knowledge management system can be implemented to meet the organisation's needs.
Yep.
Yeah, Alyssa.
So I think yeah. I think on slide number 36, that last one, I think it does talk a little bit more about the system approach for knowledge management as well. So I think it kind of talks a little bit about it in terms of, like, I guess what we're looking for. I guess a little bit of an overview of the system itself, and I guess some of the advantages and some of the disadvantages of using it. But I guess what we're looking for here is taking a system like this and really looking at, I guess, how you would go about implementation of something like this. I mean, I guess going back to the question just quickly, what do you, and I can't remember the question, but it is.
Discuss the current situation and how a knowledge management system can be implemented to meet the organisation needs.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess what you're looking for is you're looking for, I guess how you implement something like a new system in place. I mean, there needs to be a lot of buy-in. There needs to be a lot of planning. I guess there needs to be, a lot of what's in it for me and those types of things. So I guess what I would be looking for is I would be looking for how you would implement a system like this. That's what I would be looking for. How would you implement something like this and make sure that in the process you are also meeting the needs of the organisation?
Yeah. So, when we're saying discuss the current situation, so pick a business, explain why a knowledge management system is necessary for that business. So talk about what the business is doing and why that sharing of knowledge is important. So, the perfect example is all of those sort of, any business that gets heavily involved in project work that needs to come back together, debrief with a range of different stakeholders to collect all of the information about what worked and what didn't work. They need a system of putting that together so that for the next project, they can be more efficient, they can save money, they can win the next, whatever it might be. So, think about it from that. Pick a business, explain why they particularly may need a knowledge management system, what the benefits there for them are. And that's basically it. Would you add anything to the little points I've put there?
I mean, pick a business, explain what is necessary. Yeah. And I guess it's got to be aligned with what the organisational needs are. You know what I mean? Like, I think if the organisational needs are, market focused and market expansion, I guess then things like implementing a knowledge management system is a good tool to be able to meet, to move forward with what the organisation's strategy and objectives might be as well. So you might want to expand or your ideas or your concepts, or you're looking at what your competitors are doing and you kind of think, I think we could kind of do something a bit better, and then having a system that manages and shares insights and experiences that then contributes to that continuous improvement will therefore help meet those
Yep.
needs.
So think about a business that might, be seasonal, for example. So all of their business happens in a really short period, and they've got a lot of time afterwards to sort of reflect and get things right for the next batch. So why might they need things like this? Think about a business that maybe turns through staff really, really, really frequently. Why would they need something like this? All of a sudden, somebody who knows all this information and has great insights and information, they're out of here in a couple of weeks. Gee whiz, we really should be trying to keep this information around the business. It's really important. So, so pick a business like that. Pick a business that engages a lot with contractors, subcontractors. So, a lot of the information that the business may need in terms of the insights, experience, what the business might be able to use to improve their systems might be sitting in the hands of contractors, subcontractors who aren't there. So think about why those sort of businesses may need a some sort of a system at keeping all of that, all that valuable information handy. So I've given you a couple of different sort of business types that might, also as I mentioned right at the start, the ones that are heavily involved in projects. What's the benefit of having a knowledge management system for those sorts of businesses? And I think you'd be okay.
Mm, mm, yeah.
Alyssa, anything to add to this one? I mean, you did a good job in explaining it. I think we're both.
No. Yeah, I think we're good. I mean, just take your time with some of the questions. I mean, I think the resource material does definitely help you, and you know, bring some of your own ideas and some of your own concepts into some of the questions as well. We're kind of looking at each answer, and we're kind of hoping that you'll kind of justify your responses. And hey, I don't want to say have a bit of fun with continuous improvement because you know I don't know if I don't know if I can give that fun yet to continuous improvement, but I mean, I guess just use your resources, but use your own experiences at the same time to be able to answer some of these questions. And again, as Adam, you've mentioned previously, we've talked a lot about some other overlapping concepts: coaching, mentoring, sustainability, processes, all those types of things. So they do start to intertwine quite a bit. So, you can draw on some of the concepts that you've already learned in some of the old or some of the other units of competency or some of the other webinars as well. And I guess it's starting to bring it all together in this kind of overview of continuous improvement or the beginning of continuous improvement.
Yeah. And look, continuous improvement fundamentally is about improving continually. Okay, so I've used the actual subject to help explain that one, but that's really what it is about. I mean, it's the understanding that businesses that stay the same will not be around in a short period of time. Um, so you need to be constantly changing to meet the needs of what your customers are needing from you. And if you don't do that, other businesses do. And it's a highly competitive global marketplace that we live in now. And if you're not looking to find any way to get a competitive edge on your competitors or provide something back to the marketplace that's more relevant to what their needs are, if you're not looking at everything, at changes, at what's happening, if you're not looking at things to try and improve and update and expand and what have you, then that's not good. I guess a good example might be if anybody likes, is a bit of a fan of sport. Um, I'm a Victorian, so I'll talk always about AFL, but the football team here that have won the championship for the last 2 years, they're looking to win it again for a third year in a row. Now, this particular organisation is still continually improving. They're still looking at the videotapes of their previous games and going, well, how can we improve? They've sat down, they've had a 6-month pre-season, devised new plans, new systems. And when we say new, you don't have to change, continuous improvement is not about reinventing the wheel. It's actually about making really subtle changes that just keep a flow on of improvement. And that's sort of the same sort of situation in the AFL. So this team that's trying to win their third consecutive premiership championship, if they sat on their laurels and did not look at ways to improve themselves, I will guarantee you that they would not win it again, because every other club, every other football team can look at the vision, what they did last year, and they now know ways to counteract their tactics. So the organization needs to be at the cutting edge or try something different so that they're able to innovate and then still be at the top of the tree. And so that's what continuous improvement is. If you stay still, you'll be chewed up and spat out the other side, because businesses copy other businesses. It happens everywhere. So if you're not trying to be innovate and to do something to offer a service which is further and above, or if you're not listening to your customers, if you're not listening to your staff, your staff members are the most important people in continuous improvement, because who's going to who's going to be able to have the best ideas for efficiency in the warehouse? Is that the CEO who sits in another city, in another state, or is that the warehouse manager and his staff, his or her staff, because they're the ones that are in the warehouse working every single day, that spend 50 hours a week in that warehouse, and might be able to come up with some really simple little solutions, little ideas that don't seem to be that um, far reach, but maybe some really simple little ideas that just help to improve efficiencies, to gain some more, efficiencies out of the warehouse operations. And that's sort of what continuous improvement is about. Now that's why we also talk about the need to encourage, participation, because obviously involving as many people as we can with that will help to get a bigger buy-in from our staff. They're a part of the shaping the new future of the business. They're more likely to be engaged and energized and motivated and excited and all of these things. Um, so yeah, I guess that's just a little bit on continuous improvement and how it all relates into a diploma of management. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, managing people, managing business, managing performance requires a degree of innovation. But remember, innovation is not about reinventing the wheel. It's really the best innovators are the ones that are actually just take what is working and just make such a slight change, uh, you know, to improve on it. The problem is if you come up with something which is so different to what people know, it doesn't get accepted. This is just a very general statement, but if I was to invent something that was just so weird and bizarre and what have you, people wouldn't understand it because it's just too far reached. But if I invent something which looks very similar to something that we know but has a slight change to it, it's more likely to be accepted because people can relate to the other thing that it's close to. I did a really poor job in explaining that, but yeah. Alyssa, any closing comments?
No, I think you're definitely spot on with the fact that, continuous improvement is just really about making small changes. I think sometimes organisations go out there and they focus themselves on their philosophy about continuous improvement, and they do make such big dramatic changes,
Yeah.
and sometimes the bigger, the more dramatic the change is, the difficulty there is with the people becoming on board and your team members kind of getting buy-in, and they feel quite confronted. But I definitely agree with you. Continuous improvement is a ongoing process, and it's about making really small minor adjustments, and those small minor adjustments are the ones that are probably the heartbeat of actual
Yeah.
change. And I think a good strategist will definitely see that. And yeah, I do. I think some of the smallest changes that I've seen in business have probably been the most effective, and the less overwhelming and confronting it is for the team, and really helps, improve, like the rate of improvement that you get from such a small change can be, is very measurable, and is quite exciting at the same time as
Plus
well.
your
So
own business
yeah,
capabilities. I mean, if you try and do something that's so far outside of the norm, then when we talk about capabilities, we're talking about the skills and the abilities that your own staff members have may not line up with, these far-reaching things. So quite often
yeah,
innovation in a business is about going, cool, what is it that we do really well right now? Now, what else can we do with these skills? I mean, that's a serious
yeah.
way to innovate in a business, but generally continuous improvement is looking at, okay, so at the moment we have the order that goes from here to here. Is there any way that we can make that here to here, that a little A to B, a bit quicker, faster, cheaper? And that's sort of the thought process. Can we do that cheaper with a little bit less effort? And that's really the thought process.
Mm,
Is there a better way of doing it?
yeah.
And that's really what it is, comes down to. Um, the I guess the idea of an organisation that engages in continuous improvement is the same as the organisation that is a learning organisation that's committed to improving its staff and capabilities. An organisation that's committed to continuous improvement is committed to its staff. It's committed to giving responsibility to its staff. It's committed to letting its staff take a bit of take the reins a little bit, to be involved in some of the decisions, to be involved in some of the ideas, the processes, the changes. Um, and it's one that's not happy to sit on its laurels and understands that to be successful you need to be adapting what it is you do constantly, constantly, constantly.
Mm.
So, and that's what the subject's all about. So we're not going to get too heavy into it, but it's important for us that management students know the importance and understanding of continual improvement, and how much of a role plays in business. A lot of businesses use, middle management to get involved in these processes. I think the best ones engage in everybody, the frontline staff. Some will say that they don't want everyone being involved in that, and that's all well and good. But personally, every member of the organisation should be involved in this, because every member has something to say about their role and their job. Nobody knows their job better than they do. So if their job is part of the whole organizational structure and flow and process flow and everything, then their part is absolutely valuable in, looking for slight improvements and changes. So
Mm.
sounds good. Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you very much for your attendance here for Continuous Improvement Section 1. This is part 1 of the resource support sessions. Next week, tune in for resource support part 2. We'll take you through section 2 and section 3. It's 7 questions in total, followed by the following week, which will be the 21st of April. So the next week is the 14th, then the 21st of April. Following Tuesday will be the last one for this subject, which will be the assessment support workshop. We'll take you through the 3 assessment support of the 3 assessment tasks for this subject. Guys, thanks for all of the work that you've done. Management students, tune into tomorrow's session for business documents, which will be running for the next 3 Wednesdays as well. Any questions, please come to Alyssa or myself. The remaining videos will be up online as we speak. If you're missing any videos, just contact Alyssa or myself, and we can supply them directly to you. Thanks very much for your attendance, everybody.
Yeah. Good night, everybody. Happy Tuesday.